gives me pleasure to invite Mr. Siddhartha Butalia, Associate Vice President, Partnership Marketing at Taj Hotels, to share his insights on the best practices of marketing of gift cards.
It's always a pleasure to interact with people who are familiar with the industry and the category in which you're operating. It is being a relatively new industry and a new category. One often enters conversations, whether it's in the prepaid instruments segment or whether it's about gift cards as a category, that are not core to many of the businesses in which we operate. And so you're almost feeling like you're talking an alien language. That, of course, has the challenge in talking to an informed audience about a category. Then what is it that you can say which is new, which the people in the room here already don't know? We have many stalwarts in the gift card category in the room. The retail industry in general is one of the largest consumers of gift cards, whether you look at the likes of Future Group or the likes of the Phygital, Tata Clicks of the world, and many others within the fraternity of the Tata Group as well. Tanishq, as you just saw, Chroma, as you've seen in the morning. And so one always wonders why someone from luxury hospitality should speak about gift cards. And that's one of the things which I wonder before coming on to and speaking about any of these things, is where is it that we can add value into our understanding that other people who are familiar with retail, with consumers, and with gifting as a category can learn from luxury hospitality. And the premise that I often have in that, and this goes back to last year's conclave theme as well as the conclave theme that you have today, which is about reimagining the future. The premise is one that has been put forward by a gentleman called William Gibson. He's a futurist and science fiction author and the founder of a category in science fiction called cyberpunk, which you'd be familiar with in movies like Blade Runner or Minority Report. The premise was that the future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. We've heard that today in the context of people traveling across the length and breadth of the country, and the manner in which gift cards and retail payment options are being adopted by the country. But it goes back to essentially looking at the fact that if you want to look at what is in the future, you need to look at what the luxury consumers of today are already consuming. Because the recrafting of that statement really is that luxury is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. And we see that in future. If we look at what the future is and you look at things even like, and I look for the travel and hospitality category, at space travel being available to the mass consumer for a payment. Now there's no reason why that would not be available tomorrow to everybody, but it is already available even though it seems futuristic to us, to those select few. And this is a recrafting of a proposition which is put forward actually by the chief economist of Google, who is a microeconomist, Hal Varian. And that premise is that today's luxury is tomorrow's normality. So if we look carefully at what the luxury consumers' expectations are today, that will become the normality of tomorrow. Whether you look at the fact that individuals in, or the rich and famous had personal butlers, and that is being enabled now, not in the same mode, but through digital technology with personal assistants that we have at our fingertips, like the likes of a Google Assistant. Or if you look at chauffeur-driven cars that, again, the rich and famous have always had, and you look at what the sharing economy has been able to provide that, or what digital technologies have been able to give to us, which is Uber on call, or driverless cars going forward, then you realize that while the mode of consumption may be different for the masses, but the premise of what a luxury consumer or a individual with means is purchasing today is essentially what is aspirational for the consumer of tomorrow. Over the last 115 years that the Taj has been around, we have made it a core competency in many ways to be able to give not necessarily the masses, but certainly not just the royalty of the world, a taste of what that luxury is. We've pioneered with introducing royal palaces and opening those royal palaces up to the world. We've looked at creating new destinations And I want to give a glimpse of that at this point of time to set the context for what we're doing with gift cards and why that may be relevant. But the idea that is stringing through all of these really is that luxury in essence is crafted by time. And if you get to the consumer insight of what that entails, and I'll share so bear with the time because luxury is crafted by time. This is not a 30-seconder or a 60-seconder, it's a 3-minuter. But steep the experience because that is essentially why what we're trying to sell and why we in fact call our product, as Mr. Harish Bhatt mentioned in the morning, the Taj Experiences gift card.
There is a life designed for the kings. A life from the time we only know legends of. A time when palaces weren't built on reason, but sculpted on a whim. When luxury wasn't manufactured for the few, it was handcrafted for the one. A time when every inch was carved and sewn to unravel the senses. Your suites of the world's most beautiful Maharanis and Maharajas tell untold tales of their life and time. Welcome to the living palaces of Taj. Welcome to luxury crafted by time. Wander through stories of love and valor and let your discerning mind sail across 4 centuries. Where a dinner seems to be slow cooked for hundreds of years. Let your soul be spellbound by his spiritual days. Feast where praises echo effortlessly from one end to the other. Can you hear me over there? Your every moment is set in traditions as old as time. And many lifetimes seem to be rolled into this one. As your stay gracefully strolls along, you'll find that time has lost its effect on you. Yesterday is today, is tomorrow. The living palaces of Taj. Luxury crafted by time.
And that's the essence that we're trying to capture through our gift card. We're trying to move away from the fact that it is, in reality, and we must all admit it, actually just cash in a Taj envelope. But how do you bring forth and inspire people to gift a Taj Experiences gift card? Because what they're gifting is not cash in an envelope, but what they're gifting is something that is larger than the immediacy of what you would be able to buy in a store. It's a memory, in essence, that you want to give to somebody else because you've cherished those memories yourself. It's an experience which is the nature of travel that, in essence, makes you richer. So what you're really trying to get people or inspire people to gift is something that they feel strongly for themselves and want other people to experience, because that is where the joy of gifting actually comes from. If you look at how we started off, and I saw the panel speaking about this in the morning as well, even 2 years ago, so the growth from FY17 to FY18 in the previous year, predominantly, as you would see, in the B2B space, predominantly, again, with physical gift cards and not e-gift cards. And I segment out another major growth factor over here, which is not in the B2C or B2B space, but which is in the partners space. And when I say partners, these are not people who are buying it to gift to their employees, but these are people who have really partnered in the ecosystem with us, including facilitating through API integrations with the technology that Qwikcilver provides, whether it's the likes of a Make My Trip, for instance, or an American Express, where every Centurion member of Amex gets a 50,000 rupee Taj Experiences gift card, or every Platinum member gets a 10,000 rupee Taj Experiences gift card. That allows you to look at the larger ecosystem of who are the consumers who we're talking to in common, and how we can create those experiences and create a network of advocacy for people who may not have experienced us, or for people who are relevant to our base, but will continue to come because somebody who values their experience has given them the card, because they value their experience at the Taj and think that there is a premium attached to that. So when we started off, we had one card, right? And this goes back to the age-old parable in marketing, which is very similar to Henry Ford, and the card actually looked like the old Ford Model T card. And it was that any customer can have any car in any color he wants as long as it is black. And that's the one card that we had, which was a black card. And we realized over a period of time that if what we're trying to essentially give is flexibility of the experience and the joy of gifting, then we need to really look back upon, and it was interesting to hear the panel in the morning try to answer the question on who is the consumer. But to really understand who our consumer is and what he is gifting for, and how different those consumers are, how different those gifting occasions are, and how different those festive occasions are. And when we dipped into it in the fundamentals of demographics, what we realized is our core audience actually is in the 40 to 50 age bracket. In gift cards, our core audience was in 31 to 40, slightly younger. But the people who were consuming the highest value gift cards were in the 21 to 30 age bracket, and then again in the 61 to 70 age bracket. So if we want to be able to extend the value that we're offering in terms of the total size of the market, then that's the area we need to concentrate in. The other thing we realized is while our core audience is male, typically females who are buying gift cards are spending 20% more on the gift cards that they are buying for somebody else than the men are. So we need to actually reverse both of these trends and attract more women into the audience, and attract younger people into the audience and older people. These younger people are also consuming it significantly for weddings. There was the concept of pooling in for weddings that we looked at, because people who are going on their honeymoons, young people who are going on their honeymoons are going on, in essence, and that came out in the last conversations as well, how do you gift something that the individual cannot afford? That is one segment of it. In the 61 to 70-year-old age bracket, the insight is really, what do you give to someone who has everything? So addressing those two markets are very different insights that you need to look at in a very different way. The other thing we looked at in demographics is the cities where people are consuming or people are buying it from. And this is data that is available on the B2C platform, because this is data that is captured on who, when the sender is sending the card. But you notice, okay, Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Pune, etc. But the average card load value differs significantly in a Mumbai, for example, versus a Kolkata or a Pune. And so these are the markets you want to concentrate on. But what was very interesting for us is that despite the card only being applicable in India, after our top 6 metros, it's the diaspora audiences in other places of the world, whether it's Singapore, Los Angeles, or the San Francisco Bay Area, London, etc., that are gifting it to people who are at home, whether that be on occasions like Rakhi or Mother's Day or wedding anniversaries or birthdays. But it is again trying to gift them a memory or an experience, because they themselves are not there to partake of those occasions or festivals with them. So how do I, without being there, create a memory for my family member or for my friend, even though I am not present? And that is the insight that we need to be able to develop, because that is what will essentially grow the market. We looked at it at various cuts in terms of looking at the the job titles, seniorities, and functions, a lot of this in the B2B space as well, to look at what is driving that consumer behavior. We then mapped out gifting occasions across the year, demonetization being a gifting occasion as we defined it at the moment. Most of this was historic, but Valentine's Day, Easters, etc., Eid, Diwali being the standard gifting occasions. We then looked at the messages that people are writing when they're entering into the Woohoo ecosystem and gifting that card to their friends or family, and did a semantic analysis of what people are wishing them for, because you're able to map an occasion like an Easter or a Mother's Day and say, yes, the week before Mother's Day, we see an uplift because perhaps people are gifting it to their mothers. But if you look at what people are actually writing and do a semantic analysis on that, then you will really be able to unearth what are the key gifting occasions and the purposes for that gifting, and craft a product that ties in with that experience. So we took it back to the design brief to our creative agency and said, that's the insight. How do you encapsulate that insight into a visual aesthetic that captures the essence of the experience of what it is at the Taj? How are you inspired by that luxury crafted by time to be able to encapsulate that in the product experience? And then how do you market that experience to the rest of the world? So they started off with taking inspiration from some of the architectural aspects of the palaces, some of the design motifs that are there in many of the luxury hotels, in a fairly subtle manner, and came out with first 2 or 3 generic concepts for cards, a new packaging, again, for the gift card. And that was because the old packaging, while it was very attractive and fit in, was a square packaging. And if physical cards, which were predominantly be bought for weddings, needed to be able to fit in to a gentleman's breast pocket or a purse. And so you had to create something that would fit in and be easy to carry, and not just something that looked good when it arrived to the individual, because a lot of that was people buying it not to courier it to their friend or their family, but actually buying it in somebody else's name, but couriering it to their own address so that they could physically take it with them and gift it with them. And that's the essence of why you're buying a physical card and not an e-gift card. We created e-gift card versions of those. We launched it on the mobile application, again, looking at the millennial audiences and the 21 to 30 audiences to say, how do you facilitate booking through mobile applications? We then took all the birthdays, anniversaries, and the gifting occasions and festive occasions and crafted individual designs for each of those, predominantly in the e-gift cards. And each of those, so if you look at the wedding gift card, for example, the 2 cranes are inspired from a painting that is taken from Taj Falaknuma Palace. If you look at the Christmas card, you'll notice very interesting and inspired from Kerala and that region where you typically put up Christmas baubles on mango trees because you don't have Christmas trees over here. So we're not looking at the traditional designs of what you would see with Christmas, but you're looking at what is adding it that is giving it that distinctive value that is core to Indian hospitality and where both the buyer and the gifter are coming from. And then we mapped advertising campaigns to each of those gifting occasions. So your orange dots over there are interventions in the form of advertising campaigns to increase that B2C market. So we looked at print, we looked at radio on key gifting occasions, we looked at Facebook and Instagram, we looked at Google, we did advertorials with the likes of E.T. Panache, we participated in ShopShare Smile, which was quite a big takeoff. We participated with partners, looking at the HNI audiences and banking campaigns, etc. And that really is what ticked off the growth in our B2C segment, because we felt continuously that we need to be closer to the final consumer. And while B2B2C is a big growth area, that is distancing yourself from the individual who is actually buying it. And you need to get closer to who your core consumer is, because that is where the insight will come from and that is where the growth will come from. Because if you look at even the white paper which has come out now, you'll see that a lot of the Indian shopper, and especially the B2B shopper, when the procurement teams come in, etc., are influenced by price. And price is not the game that we're playing. What you're trying to do is increase the average load value, because that is where you want to be able to attract the premium and the margins that will come from it, and not through the discounting methodology. So we partnered with the likes of Coach, with Tanishq. We did campaigns for different gifting occasions across the year. We did campaigns with Make My Trip, where Every person who booked a Taj hotel through Make My Trip got a 1,000 rupee Taj Experiences gift card. So you were looking at people who were price-conscious individuals booking through an online trade partner and therefore was relatively brand agnostic. And how do you convert them into being a loyalist and an advocate of the Taj, either on their stay during that time or in subsequent stays? We did advertorials with the likes of Vogue. And after a period of time, we realized that that is where the spikes are coming in. So you'll notice that essentially, before every gifting occasion and after every advertising campaign, you will typically see a spike. But monitoring the return on advertising spend of each of those interventions will give you data so that you can actually monetize that over a period of time to improve your campaigns. And that's what the results essentially showed. And what you've seen over here again is a significant shift into EGCs, both in the consumer space as well as the partner space and in the B2B space as well, which was negligible earlier. And that is also empowered through Qwikcilver's URL-based e-gift card solution to a large extent. So that's the sort of story that we've gone through so far, but we're looking forward to quite a lot in the future. Blockchain is something that was quite interesting, but open to any questions if anybody has at the moment.
I think he mentioned that are we holding everybody up from lunch? I would say there's been a lot of food for thought, and that's always a good thing. Thank you so much.